Hello, carnivores. Hope you're having a good day. It is Monday evening for me. I probably will post this tomorrow on Tuesday because I already posted a video today. I just wanted to fill you in, a little update on my recovery, and let you know what's going on. I've been starving, and that's one of the reasons why I don't fast. Because whatever I do, I'm like, it makes me want to binge, which I need to avoid. I have had episodes of binging in the past, and I got to the point where, no amount of food would fill me up. So I don't want to trigger that kind of behavior for sure. But I kind of was eating light while I was in the hospital just because nothing was available. I want to say nothing was available, but nothing that I wanted to eat was available, so I just didn't eat. Oh, I don't need this. I was listening to a really interesting podcast. So, whenever I got home from the hospital on Friday, it was like late-ish Friday afternoon, I ate the rest of my bacon, which is probably a pound. It was a pound when it was raw. It was much less when it was cooked. But Saturday and Sunday, I was just hungry all day. Sunday night, which is last night, I ate something around midnight, which I very rarely ever eat after dark, because that's been one of my goals, is to eat when it's daylight, just for circadian rhythm purposes. It's supposed to help your circadian rhythm if you eat in the daylight hours. It lets you know when it's daytime, when you're supposed to be awake. But I was just so hungry I couldn't go to sleep last night until I ate something. I ate some hamburger meat and some scrambled eggs with butter. And then today, I've eaten 3 times a day. I feel like I'm priming, but I'm not going to want to fast later. Or maybe I will. I'm a lot more hungry than I had been in the past. And I know this goes in phases. This is to be expected. So I don't want to get overreacting to it. It's probably just perfectly normal. As sometimes you don't want to eat anything, and sometimes you do. Sometimes you're really hungry. I think that's a natural thing for kids to do as well, which I thought was interesting. Maybe my body's getting back to how, if you leave kids alone, they will almost invariably eat as much as they need. It's, and I know there are medical conditions. I don't want to just gloss over that. There are certainly medical conditions that can cause children not to eat until the point that they make themselves sick. But I think if we just leave kids alone and not be neurotic about what they eat, or how much they eat rather, I think they would do even a lot better if we only fed them human appropriate foods. But I noticed for my younger son, I was determined not to give him too many food hang-ups, the kind that I had. You have to eat this, you can't eat that. I was very young when I had my older son, and it just wasn't experienced enough to even consider doing something like this. But with my younger son, I'd been around the block enough times to know that a lot of eating disorders we can be caused, in your children just by caring too much. It's not that you're a bad parent. You're trying to be an awesome parent. You're trying to give that kid just what they need. So for my younger son, I just determined that I was going to have healthy food available for him and let him eat or not eat as much as he wanted to. We didn't argue about it. Decided, pretty early. I just figured out there are some things that you can't make children do. You can't make them talk, you can't make them poop, you can't make them eat. Or you could, but did I want to go to the measures that would be required to make them do something? How much of an argument am I going to have with my child if he doesn't want to talk and I want him to say something? And that just the kind of thing that I witnessed when I was growing up that I did not want to do with my children, was just have an argument with them like that. Now, first of all, I was not prepared, to harm them in order to make them do something. I mean, you could certainly, threaten a child and to make them talk that way. You could scare them enough to talk. But did I want? Kids have to have some kind of autonomy. And I just think arguing with them over stupid stuff like that just invites a kind of conflict that's not necessary. And my kids are fine. I mean, they're all way, way grown up now, and they're perfectly fine. They are very thoughtful and respectful young men. Not perfect. I mean, they both had a spell during their mid-teen years whenever I had to remind myself pretty regularly how much I loved them. But, they turned out fine. And so eating was the same way. I mean, you could scare a child, threaten them, even physically injure them to get them to eat something. What kind of, neuroses are you developing when you do that? It seems awful to me. And I found if you leave them alone, they really will just eat. And we didn't make a big deal about it. The healthy food was there in front of him, and he could eat it or not. And what I found, I'm getting back to the whole point of this, finally. Thank you for hanging out with me while I told my entire life story. Is I noticed that as my son was growing, he would go through spells when he hardly ate anything, and I would be terrified. Oh my God, he's going to starve to death. I've got to make my baby eat. But I held firm, kept an eye on his medical condition all the time, always, and he was good and healthy. And then there were times when he would eat everything in the house, and I finally figured out whenever he was eating all kinds of stuff, whenever he was eating a lot, he would have a growth spurt. And, he would be fueling that growth spurt. And then it would slow down again, and, and then he wouldn't have a growth spurt for a while. And I think that's perfectly normal. He wasn't stunted. He's over 6 feet tall now. He's perfectly fine, and he is the only one of us who doesn't seem to have any food issues. He's not like super thin, but he's the thinnest one of us. Me and my older son and his father, my younger son's dad. My younger son is by far in the best shape. And so another thing that I noticed was that he, like all of the rest of us, we were so food traumatized when we were growing up. I mean, I grew up with food insecurity, and you know, when we finally got to adulthood, if somebody says, "Hey, you want to go out to eat and do so and so," we were like all over it. We would never turn down a chance to go and eat some food somewhere. But my younger son, he's like, "Man, he might go," but he wasn't just. The idea of getting to have certain food is, you know, not just send him over the moon. Does that make sense? He would enjoy going out to eat with us sometimes, but if he wasn't feeling it, he just wasn't like, I'm gonna go and stuff myself on this delicious food that I don't have to cook myself, and that's just a symptom of our having deprived ourselves of food that we wanted so much for weight reasons or whatever, or, you know, because the food wasn't available. So he's the only one of us who is like that too. And so I mean, I could have done better. I could have kept him away from, I could have kept sweets and junk out of the house for longer. But you know, once they get to a certain point, by the time they are in elementary school, you can't stop them from being exposed to all kind of stuff, and they have to make their own decisions. But I mean, I did my best, and I think there seemed to have been some benefit to it. So I think that's what's going on with me now, or at least because of my experience with my son. That's what I wonder. So, you know, before I wasn't eating as much, maybe for December and January, but in February, I've just been so hungry all the time, and I've been eating all the meat. And I wonder if that's because, well, I've been sick. You know, I definitely have a health issue going on. I wonder if my body is telling me that I've got some healing that needs to be going on. And so we need this food, probably especially a lot of protein, to heal these processes in your body. At least I hope so. I mean, time will tell. I'm trying not to stress out about it. I don't limit how much food I can eat, just because I don't want to be binging, but I'm just curious about what's going on, and if you have any experiences like that, I would be very interested to hear them. What else did I eat today? So I got up and I ate, because I didn't have any more bacon. Had some ground beef, and I was starving when I woke up this morning. So I ate some Spam, and I don't eat that very often. I know it's not clean, and you know, it's not got ideal ingredients in it, but I did find some that's very low carb. So I ate some Spam and ground beef for breakfast, and then I ate the rest of that can of Spam at lunch, and then for dinner I had some ground beef, which I just cooked. I had to cook some more ground beef, and part of a chuck roast, or what was that? Was it a shoulder roast? A piece of steak from a shoulder roast that I cut off. So I ate a lot today, 3 different times. So I hope all of that protein is going to good use. And that's, I think that's all I had for today. It's getting cold again, and I don't like it. We're going to have a few more days where it's in the 20s and 30s, and to heck with all that. So I got to get up and bundle up in the morning. It's just a pain to have to put on extra layers of clothes to go out and do my morning walk. Health-wise, I'm feeling okay. I mean, I haven't had any more of those real spells where my oxygen got really low. I've been watching it on this at night, obviously, and it was down in the 80s, maybe 85, 80 to 85 was the lowest that it got. They have told me, whenever I first came in, the doctors are like, you can't, those are not very reliable. The lower the oxygen saturation is, the less reliable they are, but, you know, if it says it's 70 something, it could even be lower than that. So, but I've been keeping up with it. It's like from 80 to 90%. They're pretty accurate within 2 to 4 percentage points. And then, you know, the lower you go, the less accurate it gets. So I think in the 80s is probably not terribly inaccurate. I mean, once it gets down to the 70s, you're looking at, it's a pretty big margin of error. So nothing below the 80s for the last couple of nights, and I will keep up with it. And one last day, we're getting closer to the big sleep study. I don't want to get excited about it. I mean, you've seen what kind of catastrophes I run into with Mississippi medical doctors. Are they like that everywhere? Just smug assholes. I hope you have better luck with your medical care than I have. But I'm going to get ready to walk Saga and try to turn in early. I'll see y'all in the next one.